The Dollmaker's Secret. Emma lived in a small, quiet town where nothing exciting ever happened. It was the kind of place where everyone knew your business. And gossip traveled faster than wildfire. The streets were lined with charming, identical houses, each with a perfectly manicured lawn and a white picket fence. There was a sense of comforting familiarity to it all, a cocoon of normalcy that wrapped around the town like a warm blanket. Emma loved the tranquility. She found solace in the predictable rhythm of life there. Mornings were filled with the happy sounds of birds singing and the faraway noise of milk bottles being dropped off. Afternoons were spent exploring the winding paths of the nearby woods or simply sitting on her porch, watching the world go by. Evenings were reserved for stargazing, the vast, inky sky a stark contrast to the town's mundane existence. One day, while exploring a new street, Emma found a tiny shop she had never seen before. The sign above the door read, "Victor's Dolls." Curious, she stepped inside. The shop was filled with beautiful dolls, each one different from the others. They looked so real, like they could come to life at any moment. Emma was amazed. Victor, the doll maker, was in the shop. He was an older man with kind eyes and a mysterious smile. He welcomed Emma warmly and showed her around. He explained how he made each doll with great care and detail. Emma felt drawn to Victor and his wonderful creations. As Emma visited the shop more often, she and Victor became friends. She loved watching him work. Seeing how he carefully painted each doll's face and sewed their clothes, she felt happy and at peace in the shop, surrounded by the dolls. Emma's life appeared perfect. Her antique shop was her safe place, a world filled with china and soft fabrics where time moved slowly. She enjoyed the way light played on the glass eyes of the dolls, the old smell of wood, and the peaceful sounds of the shop. It was a place where she could lose herself in a world of forgotten stories, a peaceful retreat from the bustle of everyday life. But beneath the serene facade of her existence, a sinister undercurrent was beginning to stir. Unknowingly, she was about to discover that the dolls were more than just objects of beauty. Emma visited the doll shop almost every day. She loved spending time there, talking to Victor and looking at the dolls. One day, while she was helping Victor clean the shop, she noticed something strange. There was a new doll sitting on the shelf. This doll looked exactly like a girl from town who had gone missing a few weeks ago. Emma remembered seeing the missing posters all around the town. The doll's eyes and hair were just like the girl's. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. She asked Victor about the doll, trying to sound casual. "This doll looks like someone I know," she said, pointing at it. Victor smiled and nodded. "I get inspired by people I see," he replied. "I like to make my dolls look real." Emma tried to smile back, but she felt uneasy. She wondered if it was just a coincidence, but the resemblance was too strong to ignore. After she left the shop, Emma couldn't stop thinking about the doll. She felt worried and confused. She started to wonder if something strange was happening in the shop. The happy feeling she once had was starting to fade away. Emma couldn't shake the image of the doll. Its porcelain face, with eyes that seemed to follow her, haunted her dreams. During the day, she tried to immerse herself in work, in conversations with friends, but the doll's likeness to the missing girl was an insistent undercurrent. A strange unease began to creep into her. As she wandered through the antique shop, her gaze was drawn to other dolls, ones she hadn't noticed before. A small, boyish doll with a shock of red hair eerily resembled Tommy, the paper boy. Another, a porcelain beauty with large, blue eyes, was the spitting image of Sarah, the librarian. The uncanny resemblance was unsettling, almost as if the shop was a macabre gallery of the town's inhabitants, captured forever in doll form. A chill ran down Emma's spine. The more she looked, the more dolls she saw, each one a disturbingly accurate replica of someone she knew. A sense of dread was beginning to consume her. Was this a twisted coincidence or something far more sinister? Emma decided to keep track of the dolls. She bought a small notebook and wrote down everything she noticed. She listed the dolls' details and the people they resembled. She even drew sketches of them. Every time Emma went to the shop, she felt more curious and worried. She watched Victor closely, trying to figure out if he was hiding something. Emma didn't tell anyone about her worries. She thought maybe she was overthinking things. At night, Emma lay awake, thinking about the dolls. She wondered if there was a connection between the missing people and the dolls. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Emma's friends noticed she was acting different. She didn't spend much time with them anymore. She was always thinking about the shop and the dolls. Her obsession was growing, and she felt like she was the only one who could figure out the truth. Emma's obsession with the dolls grew stronger. She couldn't think about anything else. Every time she went to the doll shop, she felt more uneasy. She began to see the dolls everywhere, even in her dreams. Emma started to feel like everyone in town was watching her. She didn't trust anyone, not even her closest friends. She thought maybe they were part of Victor's secret. She stopped talking to them and spent more time alone. Emma's mind was full of questions. Why did the dolls look like missing people? Was Victor doing something bad? She needed answers, but she didn't know who to trust. At night, Emma felt like someone was watching her. She thought she saw shadows moving outside her window. She heard whispers, but when she checked, no one was there. She started to believe that the dolls were alive, somehow connected to Victor's secrets. Emma felt scared and alone. She wanted to know the truth, but the more she searched, the more she felt trapped in her own mind. Her paranoia made her feel like she was in a nightmare. She couldn't escape. Emma's paranoia turned into strange visions. She saw things that made her question what was real. One night, she was in bed when she heard a soft giggle. She opened her eyes and saw a doll standing by her door. Its eyes seemed to glow in the dark. Emma blinked, and the doll was gone. She thought it was a dream, but it felt so real. The next day, she found the same doll in the shop. It was sitting on a shelf, staring at her with the same eerie eyes. Emma started seeing the dolls in other places. She would walk down the street and see one peeking out from a window. At home, she found dolls in her room that she didn't remember bringing back. She tried to tell herself it was her imagination, but the visions felt too real. Emma wondered if the dolls were following her or if someone was moving them to scare her. Emma's heart raced. It was just a strange sight, she thought, a shadow fooling her tired mind. But the picture stayed, a porcelain head moving oddly, eyes that appeared to watch her. She blinked quickly, trying to make the image go away, but it stayed, a horrible fake of what was real. Victor, sensing her distress, approached with a concerned frown. "Are you all right, Emma?" His voice was gentle, but it did little to calm her racing thoughts. She forced a smile, a thin, unconvincing line across her face. "Just a little tired, I think." Her voice was higher than usual, a squeak in the otherwise quiet shop. Victor's gaze lingered on her for a moment longer, his expression unreadable. Then, with a reassuring squeeze of her shoulder, he returned to the counter. Emma's eyes darted back to the dolls. They seemed ordinary now, innocent and lifeless, but a seed of doubt had been planted. A creeping suspicion that something was profoundly wrong in this quaint little shop. Emma felt trapped in a world where the line between reality and imagination was blurry. Her visions made her feel like she was losing her mind, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the dolls were trying to tell her something. Emma felt more confused every day. The dolls seemed to be everywhere, and her visions scared her. She didn't know who to trust, but she hoped Victor could help her. One day, Victor noticed that Emma looked worried. He asked her to sit down and talk. Emma hesitated, but decided to tell him a little about her fears. Victor listened carefully and smiled gently. "You're just stressed," he said. "The dolls are just dolls. You have nothing to worry about." Emma wanted to believe him, but her heart still felt heavy. Victor gave her a special doll, saying, "Keep this with you. It will protect you." Emma took the doll home, hoping it would help her feel safe. Emma's friend Lila visited her and noticed the doll. Lila said, "That's a pretty doll. Victor is so nice to give it to you." Emma nodded, but felt unsure. She wondered if Lila was trying to calm her, or if she was part of Victor's plan. Emma started to question everything. Victor's words and the doll's presence seemed to control her thoughts. She felt like she was being pulled in different directions, unable to think clearly. Emma realized she needed to be careful. She didn't know if Victor and Lila were helping her or keeping her in the dark. She had to find the truth on her own, even if it meant facing her fears alone. Emma knew she had to find out the truth about the dolls. One night, when the town was quiet, she went back to Victor's shop. She waited until it was dark and sneaked inside. Emma's heart pounded like a drumbeat as she crept through the inky blackness of Victor's shop. Dust motes danced in the moonlight that filtered through a broken window, casting eerie shadows that writhed and twisted like grotesque puppets. The air was thick with the scent of old wax and decaying fabric, a sickly sweet perfume that clung to her senses. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind, sent shivers down her spine. She moved slowly, her eyes scanning the darkness, searching for any sign of movement. The dolls, their vacant eyes seeming to stare back at her from the shadows, filled her with a dread she couldn't shake. As she ventured deeper into the shop, a strange energy began to build. The air grew colder, and a low hum filled her ears. Like the distant buzz of 1,000 angry bees, her breath caught in her throat as she approached the back room, the place where Victor had always seemed to disappear. Emma carefully looked around the shop. She found a door she hadn't noticed before, hidden behind a curtain. It was slightly open, and she could see a dim light coming from inside. Her heart pounded as she pushed the door open. Inside, Emma saw a room filled with unfinished dolls. But these dolls were different. They seemed to have faces that looked sad and scared. In the middle of the room, there was a table with photographs of people, including the missing girl from town. Emma's blood ran cold as a realization, as chilling as the attic itself, settled upon her. The dolls weren't mere toys, lifeless objects of childhood whimsy. They were vessels, grotesque containers for something sinister. The missing persons, they were all connected. A wave of nausea washed over her as she connected the dots. The porcelain smiles, the vacant eyes, they were not just eerie, they were haunting. A doll's head, its glassy eyes staring directly at her, seemed to twist on its neck, a macabre pantomime of curiosity. Emma gasped, her heart pounding in her ears. It wasn't a trick of the shadows, the doll was moving. A tremor shook her as she backed away, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The dolls were alive, no worse. They were occupied. The spirits of the missing, trapped in these porcelain prisons, were reaching out to her, pleading for release. Victor suddenly appeared in the doorway, his face calm but serious. "I didn't want you to see this," he said softly. Emma stepped back, afraid of what he might do next. Victor explained that he made a deal long ago to capture people's spirits and put them into dolls. He said it was a way to preserve their beauty forever. Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing. She felt trapped and terrified. Emma knew she had to escape and tell someone about what she had discovered, but she also knew that Victor wouldn't let her leave easily. The truth was darker than she had imagined, and now she had to find a way out. Emma stood in the room, frozen with fear. She couldn't believe what Victor had told her. The dolls were not just dolls, they were people trapped in a nightmare. Victor walked closer, his eyes calm but full of power. "You know my secret now," he said. "You have two choices: become part of my world or forget everything you've seen." Emma's heart raced. She didn't want to be part of Victor's world. She wanted to save the people trapped in the dolls. But she didn't know how. If she refused, she feared what Victor might do to her. Emma thought about the people she cared about, like her friend Lila. She wondered if they could be saved too. But she was scared that Victor might hurt them if she tried to stop him. Emma felt torn between staying silent to protect herself and trying to free the people in the dolls. She didn't want to live in a world where Victor had control over her and others. With a deep breath, Emma made a decision. She looked Victor in the eyes and said, "I can't let you continue this. I will find a way to stop you." Victor smiled as if he expected her answer. "Be careful, Emma. My dolls are everywhere. They will watch you and they will tell me everything." Emma left the shop, her mind full of fear and determination. She knew she had made the right choice. But she also knew the danger she faced. She had to be brave and find a way to end Victor's control over the dolls. Emma hurried home, her mind racing with fear and determination. She knew she had to act fast to save the people trapped in the dolls, but she also knew Victor was watching her. Everywhere she went, Emma felt the dolls' eyes following her. They seemed to be listening, ready to report back to Victor. She knew she had to be careful with every step she took. Emma started researching ways to break the spell that held the dolls' spirits. She spent hours at the library looking for old books about magic and curses. She knew time was running out. One night, while Emma was reading in her room, she heard a soft knock on the window. She opened the curtain and saw Lila standing outside, looking worried. "Emma, we need to talk," Lila said, her voice shaky. "I think Victor knows what you're planning. He's been acting strange, and I found this at my house." She handed Emma a small doll that looked just like her. Emma's heart sank. Victor was getting closer, and now her friend was in danger too. She realized she couldn't do this alone. She needed help to stop Victor once and for all. As Emma and Lila talked, they heard a noise downstairs. It was the creaking of the floorboards. Like someone was walking through the house. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she realized they were not alone. Emma grabbed Lila's hand and whispered, "We have to go. We can't let him find us here." They quickly gathered their things and headed for the door. As they stepped outside, Emma felt a chill in the air. She knew Victor was getting closer, but she was determined to fight back. The dolls might be watching, but Emma was ready to face whatever came next. The story ends with Emma and Lila disappearing into the night, leaving the reader wondering if they will succeed in breaking the curse or if Victor will catch up to them.